What really makes us better people is our capacity to question the status quo to achieve positive change. If you are seeking to adopt new habits, to learn about a kind lifestyle, low-waste living, and speaking up for justice, you have come to the right place. Together, we will make the switch that will light up this world. I'm Morgan, and I'm happy to welcome you on this journey.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to this new episode of the Positive Switch podcast. Today, I want to talk about a topic that sometimes seems to my eyes to be a little bit taboo in society. I think many people might not talk enough about this topic, and I just wanted to share some of my experiences. Most of all, what I've learned from these experiences and how I moved on in my life after breakups. Breakups can really trigger a bunch of diverse emotions. Some people can move on very quickly with breakups. Some people will have a harder time to move on, and it will affect them more deeply emotionally, and sometimes it could even ruin someone's life. I'm pretty sure, and so it's something that really affects us differently. But I think we can all learn from the experiences that we live, and there are certain things that could definitely help us to move on, maybe more quickly. Some things which would help us to be a bit less affected, like not so negatively impacted by those experiences. And without further ado, let's just start. So I think first, sometimes the reason we might not want to talk about it is because I feel like there is this kind of latent, I don't know how to pronounce this word, but something that's always there, like without people really knowing. I think there's always this kind of pressure from society, because society has those standards that might have us think that we have to be in a relationship, and that if we're not in a relationship, we cannot be happy and we cannot thrive, and that kind of just dumb things that I've already experienced in my life, and that I just realized, by when you watch TV and that kind of things, when you see how the media picture the perfect life and the happy life, it always seems that only a big family with parents and children are happy. And so somehow I'm sure that some people might get the feeling that this is the perfect picture of happiness, and there's no other picture. And in believing this, we put ourselves at risk of having a hard time moving on after a breakup, because we had this picture of the perfect life and of how we could really be happy, and when we lose that picture, when we're not living that perfect dream anymore, we feel like our life just collapsed. So like I said at the beginning, we might have different feelings, different emotions after a breakup, and some that I have experienced personally, or that I think could be associated to how we feel after a breakup. It's kind of a death inside of us, something that's died, something that turned off, like this light that's not bursting anymore, and we might feel like we have to grieve. We're in in a period of grievance just after you lost someone who really passed away. So it's not like the person is dead, but when the person is not part of your life to such an extent that you know almost everything about that person, and you know her or his qualities, and you know everything about that person that she or he likes, and all these habits that you kind of develop together, and these rituals that you might have had, when they're gone from your life, it can really feel like a death. So it can trigger a lot of pain, and to me sometimes it really felt like a deep loss, like I lost a part of myself. So what has helped me after those breakups? But first, what I want to say is a bit personal, but I feel like now with time and with doing a lot of work with myself, I'm ready to talk about it, and I don't feel shame or anything. It's just personal experiences, and I think if they can help someone to better move on and to better accept the loss that they've had after a breakup, I think that's all beneficial. So there's nothing I should be ashamed of or feeling embarrassed of. For some reason, and that was like, I think that's been one of the biggest struggles of my life until a certain point. Almost in every single relationship that I was in, I didn't break up. The person broke up with me, and therefore, after this happened, I spent days or weeks or even months to question myself and to ask me this kind of negative question, which it is definitely a negative question, and I wasn't even trying to see the positive side or the positive version of this question. And I always ask myself, what is wrong with me? What have I done? Why do guys keep breaking up with me? Am I a bad girlfriend? Am I too annoying? Am I too clingy? Am I this? Am I that? And yeah, sometimes it can be really overwhelming, not only for your mental but also for your body, because everything is related, and when you start having this burden of persistent thoughts, then it eventually affects your body health, your physical health. So yeah, I definitely spent a lot of time asking me this question. I guess I really had a hard time to move on because I'm a person, it can happen to all of us. When I am with someone, I start very early on in the relationship to give everything I can, to be always there for the person, to assist them if they need anything. I'm always ready to help, and I just really invest myself in the relationship. And when I start loving someone, I can love them forever. If we both do our part in the relationship, if we do our equal part, then I could truly love this person forever. And maybe somehow that was overwhelming for the person I was in the relationship with, because we didn't have the same expectations from one another, because that person might have known from the beginning that they might not want this relationship to last forever. Maybe they knew from the very start that this would just last a couple of months, and then they just wanted to switch, to have yeah, to bring this novelty in their life. Some people, and I don't think it's, I don't know if it's wrong or if we should think that these persons have something wrong. I think no, that it's everybody's freedom to define if they want an exclusive relationship for the rest of their life, or if they want to switch partnerships and to just have different unique experiences. That's up to all of us to define this. But I think what's really important is right at the beginning of the relationship to define both of the person's expectations. You don't have to obviously expose your whole life to the person from the very beginning. You don't have to show this person all your faults and all your qualities from the very beginning, because obviously if this person cares about you, she or he is going to stay long enough to have an insight into all your different qualities and defaults and falses, sorry, and then it's up to this person to know if they can live longer with you and with those falses and with those qualities, or if it doesn't do it for them, if it's not the personality that they feel really in love with. But yeah, I think it's very important to communicate, to talk a lot with your partner, and to really have in mind what are your expectations of this relationship. Because if this is not done at the beginning, then sooner or later one of both partners could be hurt. By the way, I'm not talking. I mean, I've only had exclusive relationships with one person, so we were two persons. But this could apply to any type of relationship. I don't have any experience of what it's like to be in a relationship with 3 or 4. I don't know how many ever persons in a relationship, but I guess in any kind of relationship, I think that would be a good foundation to start with, to talk about your expectations. And so what happened is, I think, because I felt so attached very early on in the relationship, I started realizing that the person in front of me might not have the same amount of feeling for me, that they would not be as intensely in love with me that I was in them. And yeah, and at some point, either I received a text message ending up the relationship, or a phone call, or yeah, so that happened quite a lot. And then my longest relationship lasts 2.5 years. And this one was the example where I was loving the person much more than he was loving me. And he still had some hardships with his past and a previous girlfriend, and he had many personal experiences that affected him, and sometimes he just felt more in love with me, and sometimes he just felt less in love with me. And don't get me wrong, our love is constantly changing, because we are constantly changing. So we cannot expect someone's love, or just someone, to be forever the same person. And we can't expect their love to be always the same, because they are changing. And so we just have to fall in love with a person, knowing that this person is not going to be the same forever. Yeah, and this relationship was definitely quite tumultuous. I don't really know what's the adjective, but there were a lot of hardships. And in these 2.5 years, I think, well, I studied for 5 months and a half in Germany, and towards what actually was the end of the relationship, I was living in Scotland, and I was going to be in Scotland for 1 year. So this was definitely also affecting him, and I think because from the very beginning on, because my love for him was stronger than his love for me was, um, well, me going away and living in another country definitely maybe weakened his love for me. Like, he wanted just a conventional relationship, living in an apartment in the same country forever, and yeah, not really being open to new experiences. And that's, at the time, that wasn't what I was looking for. So my love for him was strong enough so that I could live apart from him and still be faithful and love him as much as I would if I was with him. But yeah, and this relationship ended up, like, we mutually ended this, but still, the days that succeeded the breakup, I kind of felt free at the beginning, and then there was a phase where I had to cry all that I could to kind of cleanse my body of all of the emotions that I had in there, and everything that I had held for so long, and yeah, so it developed in such a way, it evolved in such a way that it felt more of a burden for me to be in this relationship than a freedom. Yes, and I think that's the first relationship where, when it ended, I started moving on much more easily. Because I had realized that this relationship was more of a burden for me, because we never knew if we wanted to stay and continue together, or if we wanted to end it, because it was just so much to handle for him because of me being away. And so it was always like, okay, let's do this. Oh, come on, let's just stop. It's too much. Oh, okay, let's just continue and see how it goes. And at the end, we just, like, I feel like we just kept ourselves prisoners in this relationship that we both wanted to end. But when you let go, and when you accept and realize that you're more free when you're no more in this relationship, that's the point where you truly can move on after the breakup, because you've done the personal work and the personal search of looking at what's happened in this relationship, analyzing, not really analyzing, but looking at the relationship on a broader picture, and seeing maybe where it went wrong, and what should you or the person do better in the next relationship. How should you communicate better, and how can you have a good foundation to start with in the next relationship. And so from that relationship, I started moving on much better than the relationships I had had before that one. And when this relationship ended, I think I was about 22, I guess. Yeah, 21 or 22. And you're still young, but there was always this question in my head, like, what am I doing wrong that no relationship seems to work?
Well, sorry for this, but yeah, I thought my great phone was recording what I was saying, but obviously it wasn't. Let me just take a sip of tea. Okay, I don't even know what I was saying anymore. But yeah, the relationships that were before this one, I really had such a hard time to move on. And after this one ended, I still felt a kind of pressure from society. I thought, why can I not be in a relationship that doesn't stop? Why can I find my soulmate? Why can't I be happy with someone? And yeah, but I would be really curious to know if you also, whether of if, sorry, I want to know if you still feel that kind of pressure that's not really obvious, but if you feel that kind of pressure, this kind of expectation of society, of your family and friends, that you have or you should be in a relationship, or have you felt it before and now have you realized it, and now this pressure is just gone and you don't feel it anymore? But yeah, so after this relationship, I moved on, and then I didn't have any relationship for, I think, 3 years. Yeah, that was a pretty long time, but that was a time where I really started finding myself. Yeah, I that was like this 3 years where I spent so much time with myself and taking care of myself and learning and doing things I loved. And I just reached a point where I was really happy and satisfied with myself. And I could see maybe why some of my relationships had gone wrong. And I think that's from the point on where you truly learn to love yourself, be your best confidant, be your best friend, be your best lover. You're, and I'm not sure if we have a soulmate. I think sometimes we first have to learn how to be complete in ourselves, so that then we can share this completeness with another person, with another soul who's also complete. Or not sometimes, because I definitely can tell if a person is satisfied with herself or with himself. And I know that not of all of my boyfriends were completely in love with themselves and accepted themselves. But I think it's okay, and we're always learning and always evolving. And that's a process that sometimes when you experience it with someone, you also continue growing and you help that person growing. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that there is in a relationship. Like I said at the beginning, we're always changing, and we cannot expect from someone to remain the person with whom we felt in love in the first place. And in 2018, after 3 years, I had a relationship again for the first time, and I was really quite happy, quite excited. But then it happened again. I got attached. And well, what I want to precise first is, because of the previous experiences, even though I had taken the time to be in love with myself, to be fully satisfied and just content with living as a single woman, I was scared that if I went in a relationship again, that I was going to lose this balance, because I knew that I tended to attach myself very quickly to someone, and I was quite scared of having feelings. But it happened, and it was definitely such a great time with this person, a great experience, and a really kind person. And maybe this person needed change at some point. Maybe this person didn't have planned to stay with me for the rest of his life, and which is perfectly fine. but how the relationship ended, that I really didn't expect. And what happened is, after 2 months, I could feel that this person was not talking to me as much as before. And we were living in 2 different cities. And then one time he asked me if he could spend the evening at my place. And when he came on that evening, he told me that he didn't have any feelings for me anymore. And at first, it was a bit brutal to hear it, but in my subconscious, I perfectly knew it. I knew it was coming. I was getting ready, and I was preparing myself mentally for this. But what truly helped me at that moment, I feel, this is my personal opinion, I was reading that book at this moment of my life, which is called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, I don't know how you pronounce it in English. And it's great teachings about the ego, and how the ego has such a strong hold on us, and how it feeds, and etc. And what's the role of the ego as well in relationships. And I was reading this book, and I was quite I was what's the word, I was almost at the end of the book when this happened, when the person came to my apartment and told me that he didn't have any feelings anymore. And I just felt it was the same as in the previous relationship. I felt like a burden was gone, because the words were out, because the truth was out. And it's like my body and my mind, I was just waiting for this moment, so that I could feel free again of getting back into the work, and getting back into the self-care, and just being there for myself, and being my best friend. Because even though I had the greatest time of my life with this person, it still was painful to accept that in the end this person didn't want to stay with me. And I had getting so used to this person, to our little habits and rituals. And when this person is gone, then it always, I think it always, it's always going to take some time to recover from this, from the things that you used to do with that person, and that just disappear from your life from one day to another. But I think in my heart, I really embraced this, because this person was so truthful. He was so honest to me. He had the courage of, well, the courage, I mean, it doesn't have to be courage, it's just common sense. It should be common sense that you have to say things like they are, and eyes in the eyes to the person. And you should never text a message, or just make a call to tell a person that you're breaking up. But he drove an hour or something to come to my flat and to say it to me with his words. And I'm sure it wasn't easy for him, but he did. And I will always be thankful for him for doing this. But at the same time, I had to move on from this experience, because I knew that something even richer, something even more nourishing was going to come in my life at some point. And I truly believed that I deserved the happiness that anyone deserves, if it had to be just by myself or with someone. I was going to accept it, because whether I'm with someone or not, I should always be prioritizing my own happiness, and being satisfied with myself, and feeling complete. And now when I'm looking back, I can only be so grateful because this experience has led me to where I am now. And yeah, and now I'm just so truly deeply happy with the person I'm with. I think sometimes I feel like when you fall in love with someone, you fall in love with yourself. And for me, when I fell in love with Mark, is one day I just realized that everything I love about him is what I love about me. So yeah, I think love is just beautiful. It's a wonderful, strong experience, and no matter how much we suffer, I think the happiness and the nourishing lessons that we take from those experiences definitely outweigh the pain and the suffering, the emotional suffering that we might endure. I think that sometimes it's worth to fight for love. It's worth to do the work with ourselves, and first to take time to really prioritize our own happiness, so that we can experience so that we can experience true love with someone. And I think what is truly important in the days, weeks following a breakup is to express yourself. You don't have necessarily to express it to someone if you're not feeling ready for it yet, but you have to express it in some way. Just let all your emotions out, release the burden that you might have carried. Express yourself in some way, whether it's by journaling, writing anywhere with a pen in a little diary, or writing on your computer, if it's singing or dancing, if it's going in nature, or if it's creating, painting. Do something. Use these emotions and to just channel and create something out of these emotions. And I think that's the kind of purging part about it, that those emotions are there to be used in some way. And when you can use the negative, what you perceive as the negative, when you can use that and transform it into something positive, that's when you've grown. That's where you can start on a new fresh foundation. And as for my part, that's really what has helped me move on. I think that's pretty much everything I can say about this. I will probably now and then, or in the next weeks, also write about it, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, because I feel like I said at the beginning, that's a topic that should be more talked about. There's nothing to be ashamed of or to feel guilty or at unease when we talk about breakups. It's not a competition in any sort. It's not who will have the biggest number of relationship, or it's all a teaching journey. And that's all I had to share with you today. I hope it will be helpful in some way. If you found it worth listening to, don't hesitate to share this episode with someone close to your heart. And I wish you a beautiful rest of your day. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.